Welcome to Law Flip. It's an unfiltered conversation about law, life, tech, and everything in between. Also, RIP to this office. This set, it's out. It's gone. It's the last one. We're out of here. We're going fully remote. We'll see. You'll just be surprised the next time you see us. Okay, so today we speak to Maddie Sakura. Did I say that right?
You sure did.
That's amazing. Who's a venture-backed, what did I say? Venture-backed entrepreneur building the next billion-dollar tech company. All right, in this episode, Maddie, what do we talk about? You are a good salesperson. You get into doors. Maddie, what are we going to learn on this episode of Law Flip?
You're going to learn something new. Hopefully you can take it with you and build the next billion-dollar business yourself.
Woo! Also, last month we discussed our lawyer referral app, LawFlip.com. If you're a lawyer, you know any lawyers and they are not yet signed up, do it right now. Go to www.lawflip.com. It's still completely free. It's in alpha stage. If you're interested in trying LawFlip out, either email me, benji@lawflip.com, DM me, just get a hold of me. We'll get on a Zoom. I'll show you what it's about. You'll make more money. Let's go. Let's get into the episode.
Law flip, objection, your honor. Turn the game upside down. Law flip, objection, your honor. Turn the game upside down.
So excited to have you here, Maddie.
It's a pleasure to be here, Benji.
Awesome, man. Okay, so you're born and raised in LA, right?
Yeah, for the most part.
Okay.
By the way, can I say I love that song? Is that you on there?
Yeah, doesn't he rap
Does he?
it?
Oh, man, we need the full version on iTunes. Or Apple
you,
Music,
man.
I guess.
Thank you. You're the first person in the episode to actually give me the compliment, so I'll take it. All right. So, and your mom. So this is obviously Law Flip. It's a bunch of miserable lawyers trying to find their way to being happy. Your mom was actually a lawyer, right?
Yeah, she was a lawyer in Cameroon, where we're originally from.
Okay, got it. And she ended up not doing that here.
Yeah, so she came here and could not pass the bar exam. Why do you guys make it so hard, man?
Make it real hard, and she's better off, man. She's much better off not being a lawyer. All right, so let's start at a high level. You're here because I heard you on another podcast, my friend D, who inspired me to do so many different things.
Shout out to D.
Shout out to D, always. He's connected to every single person in the world. I heard you on his podcast, Group Shot, okay? And I was really inspired. And you were talking about your company, which is now a venture-backed company, Group Shot. What does Group Shot do?
Group Shop, essentially, we are trying to decentralize advertising. And what that means is we want to take the money away from Facebook, Google, and some of the big ad platforms and give it back to the consumers, the people like you and I who are out here, buying products, telling our friends about these products. But, brands are essentially paying these big ad platforms for our influence. They take our data and they get really big from it, and people never get see a dime from that.
So lawyers are really stupid and they're dinosaurs. So let's just bring it to a example for them. I go to Nike.com and buy a pair of shoes. What happens? What do you do?
After that, we create a virtual Nike store for you to go out there and share with your friends, have your friends shop through you. And when they purchase the products that you've bought or the products that you like or the products that they like from Nike through you, you get money back and you get commission for that sale as opposed to Facebook or Amazon, whoever else. And that person gets a discount for shopping through you as a friend.
Sounds good. How has that not been done before? Is that not a version of affiliate marketing?
It's a version of affiliate. It's a version of referral, but we just make it really simple, right? You don't have to create an account. You don't have to, get vetted. You just simply opt in by completing an order.
Okay. So part of the whole shtick that they were talking about on Group Chat is that you were the most resourceful founder that they ever came across. And one of the points was you literally during COVID just rolled into their office after talking to D and just planted your laptop there and started working there. What makes you so resourceful? What does it look like to be resourceful that they're talking about?
I think, it just comes from my upbringing, from my background, just having to, I've always believed in creating a version of the world that you want and not necessarily accepting the version of the world that everyone else pushes on you. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people fall back to the things they don't have or the things they can't do. I always lean towards the things that I can do. And it's a lot, we have resources all around us. Google's the biggest university in the world.
Mm-hmm. I am starting my own platform called LawFlip, the lawyer referral platform. So I'm using this as a little bit of a cheat sheet for my own business. When we talk about being resourceful, Like specifically, what are some things that you think you've done that people are like, oh, I never would have thought of that?
Getting in front of, developers and trying to, I come from a non-technical background. That means I don't know how to code. I don't know anything about writing code, but like, finding the people who are able to do that and then being able to bring them in to be aligned with your vision and, and go forward and create these products and put them out to the world.
Okay. So, and you talked about not having a technical background. I heard somebody once say, like, if you want to run a business, don't be a subject matter expert in that field. For instance, like lawyers, we try to run our own law firms, but we're lawyers ourselves.
Not business people.
And not really business people. So it's really hard because you're trying to run a business, but you're also the subject matter expert. It's kind of like you're a repair shop, but you're a repair guy. Yeah. It's very hard to just run the business as opposed to, like, for you literally cannot code.
Yeah.
So it's almost like, in a way, it's kind of a brilliant thing to do to start a tech company without being a tech founder. But what are the limitations? Where have you found it really challenging?
There are a lot of limitations, right? Because then you kind of have to lean on other people and what they're telling you about the code itself. Being that, if you look at a screen full of code, you can't make sense of it, right?
Right.
So from there, you kind of have to educate yourself and you kind of have to have trusted people around you and really have faith that they're feeding you correct information.
How, because I think of like either building a house or when you go get your car repaired, you have no idea what's under the hood.
Yeah. And I think, and you don't get there from day one. I think it's like, building trust with the people that you work with and, and being able to sniff out the bullshit. That's really a lot of life, right? Just being able to sniff out bullshit.
Yeah. And I think as a lawyer, you come in with a sense of skepticism. You don't have so much skepticism that you're paralyzed and you can't get things done.
Yeah, exactly. And it's finding that happy medium, that balance where you still trust people enough, but also you're wary and you're always looking around to make sure that, you're not being lied to. So it's a balance.
But you're on this risky journey. You started off as like a AT&T. What were you doing there?
I was a technician. I was a premise technician. So think about me as a guy who came into your house and helped you fix your internet or TV, or phone, whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you did that for how long?
I want to say 4 years.
Okay. So that's a pretty monotonous job for someone like yourself who's creative and, out there trying to make it happen. Yeah. Was that torture?
I wouldn't say it was torture because it paid really well. I mean, I had peers going through college who were dead broke, but I was driving around in a BMW. It wasn't bad.
Do you miss those days a little bit?
I mean, I'm good now. Life is pretty good now, so I don't really miss them. But I would say, when you're wildly ambitious, there's a ceiling to your growth there, right? There's a cap. Yeah. Well, but where I'm at now, it's
obviously I know you're really successful right now. I was saying
I wouldn't say really successful. We're on a path there. Yeah,
you're on a path there. I knew you wouldn't accept that compliment, but you're on your way to success. What I meant to say is sometimes people like to glamorize entrepreneurship, and D always says, you got to be crazy to do this, even though he's been doing it for 20 years.
D says that, but I don't believe him.
Yeah,
it's not for everyone.
Yeah. What is it? So why is it for you?
I'm unemployable.
Why can't you be employed?
I mean, I can't be employed because I feel if I'm not working on something that I take ownership of, that I feel a direct passion or that, is directly I see the benefits of, then I am not going to give it 100%. If I'm not going to give it 100%, then I'm wasting your time and my time. Yeah. And that's what makes me unemployable.
Let's talk about risk. First of all, this isn't your first rodeo, right?
Yeah.
You've had a couple ventures that went belly
Fizzled,
up or didn't work. One, how'd you have the balls to keep on trying? And two, I think you put every dollar you had into this venture. How did you have the balls to just do this?
I mean, the way I look at it, I break my life into I look at the long term, and I'm 30 now, and I figure I have 10 more years of risk in me before I get a bunch of kids and I get a wife and a house. I'm if it's only me, I know I'm gonna figure shit out. I'm not the smartest person in the world, but I'm pretty smart. I'll figure something out, right? So it's that's just kind of how I weighed it.
Yeah.
And yeah.
When you decided to start this thing, you knew that eventually you needed some capital. What was your mindset around capital before you actually got it? And then what was the most surprising part about getting money?
So my mindset about capital is, in the past ventures, I've tried to raise money in the past. It's been just not hasn't worked out. But I actually did not want to raise money for this. I wanted this to be a nice cash flowing business that I can make 10, 20 grand a month and just like live a decent life, you know? But then as we started to build it, the ambition got bigger, the demand was greater than I thought it would be. Brands, we worked with D and some of his brands, we saw great results, and it started to look like there was a lot of potential there. And so when we went to raise money, the biggest thing that surprised me was how easy or how quickly we were able to put the round together.
Is that because like the state of affairs, like, 2022, money's just flying everywhere? Or did you feel that like this could have happened? Were you just surprised about the whole process that money's just easy to get?
Money's flying everywhere, but not to everyone, right? And it's like, I think it's always, because I mean, I didn't have exposure to like, venture capitalists in the past, and I am on vetted, right? I'm coming in as a fresh face.
Yeah.
I don't have the Stanford background that a lot of these guys like.
Right.
So that's kind of like, it made it a little bit harder, but I think it was the group of people I had around me, partnered with me on this business.
Yeah.
And also the traction we were able to show with what we did in our first early version of the product.
So you were able to show that people that went to one of D's websites, they purchased something, and then they were just a mouthpiece for his business and got other people to buy stuff?
Yeah, we were able to show that, hey, like, we're able to, create more than $1 for his business.
Got it.
And that's a net positive for any business, because as you know, every business you have to acquire customers, and there's a cost to that.
100%.
And we can do it better and easier than any other source. We're value add.
I heard recently that if you don't know how much your next customer costs, you don't have a business.
You don't have a business.
So
you have a hobby.
So what was the process like to get that money? Tell me how you got that money.
The process was, I want to say, abnormal, because oftentimes you hear, great entrepreneurs to tell you, I had 700 calls and I heard, 700 no's. For us, I mean, really the first firm we called, Harlem Capital, shout out to them, they were in. Now it was just about ironing out the terms of the deal and things like that, and finding, other firms to come in and back them.
How many firms total were invested?
I believe we have 3.
So you have 3 firms invested.
Yeah.
In a relatively short period of time.
Yeah.
So you have those deals you've done, and then have you done a bunch of like joint venture or partnership deals along the way?
Yeah. So, I mean, with software, right? So we're trying to integrate with as many different companies, which we will be announcing soon as possible. Like we try to integrate as much as possible with other companies.
This might be of interest to some of the lawyers here. What, as a non-lawyer, what have you learned about making all these deals, whether it be the venture money or these partnership deals?
Partnership deals are fairly simple because, it's just more exposure for both sides, especially when there's a lot of synergy there. The venture deals, one thing I learned is I value lawyers a lot more now than I did in the past, I have to say.
I value lawyers a lot less now than I did in the past. But no, I hear you.
Yeah. Like now I would say, like, I have my lawyer's number saved.
Yeah.
Before it was just like, all right, well, they're just a lawyer. They're just gonna like try to tell me be cautious.
Yeah.
But now it's like, all right, before I do anything, before I breathe, I'm like, okay, I'd send a text message.
Yeah, you have to find that lawyer that's like the in between a deal killer and a deal maker.
And I have to say, y'all are pricey.
We are definitely pricey. Okay. What's the most surprising thing that you've learned around? Obviously, one of the surprising things has got to be that you were able to get money relatively easy. What are some of the other surprising things you've learned along the way of building this thing?
Well, I'd say the biggest thing I've learned is that you kind of have to have a clear vision around, getting other teammates and other talented people to rally around you, especially when you're trying to build something great. If you're trying to build something mediocre, it doesn't really matter. If you're trying to build something great, you need other people who are talented, and they need to be focused and aligned with your vision on what that thing is.
How do you do it?
I'm still trying to get there. If you find out the answer to that, let me know.
I know, man. It's hard. That's actually hard. And so I actually represent employees on the one hand, I'm also an employer on the other hand. So
Yeah.
I know that balance. Like I know how hard it is to be an employer, and I know what it's like from the employee's
Yeah.
perspective, and I also know how miserable it could be to be an employee if you have a shitty boss.
Exactly.
So like I think that's where you take all the different things and realize that you're not going to also will these people into doing something they don't want to do. They either want to do it or they don't.
No matter how much you're paying them.
Yeah, and it's amazing. Like I used to think that you, in order to be, that you have to be some great leader in order to have somebody do their job just as they're supposed to do it. A lot of times when people aren't doing their job, it's because they don't have the passion. Maybe they're having a tough time in their life. It's not
Yeah.
always about being like this amazing leader.
Yeah.
And you've even heard, like even a lot of the great
Yeah.
tech founders, or Zuckerberg or Elon Musk, they're not necessarily known for being like the greatest people to work
Yeah,
for.
exactly. I'll say empathy plays a big role in leadership.
Yeah, and how do you show that?
Well, I think it's just trying to always put yourself in another person's position, whether it be a direct report or whether it be, a manager or someone high up in the company. Is always trying to understand the context in which they're giving you information.
Yep, and your mindset every day, because when you're building a company and when you have a job, it's like, hey, here's my list of stuff to do.
Yeah.
Let me go do it.
Yeah.
When you're running a company of any kind, let alone a startup that's trying to do something relatively new, there's no end to the amount of different things that you can do. Every day you could
Something
pay
new.
attention to marketing, sales, engineering, features, bugs, all these different things. What's your mindset on how do you deal with the fires versus what?
I'll say my mindset is extreme focus, which I believe is my superpower.
What is it like? So what does that look like?
On an everyday basis, we're looking at one number.
What's that?
And that's the number. For every business, that's different. For us, is GMV and transactions. How many sales are we getting for our merchants? How many new customers are we getting for our merchants? If that number is going up, then we know that the business is
What's
going in the right
GMV?
direction. Gross merchandising volume. Like
Got it.
in aggregate, how many sales have we gotten in total across all brands?
Got it.
And how many transactions, per merchant are we getting on a daily basis?
Got it. So you look at that number, and then you consciously and subconsciously are doing every single thing possible to increase that number.
Yes, if that number is growing, then we know we're going in the right direction. And although there are always going to be fires there, we know that systematically we're doing something right.
So what do you do so today you're working on how do you make the distinction between what's directly going to get that done versus something that can hold off?
Well, I think it's all about resources, right? Like if you have unlimited resources, then you can do the short term and the long term. Mm-hmm. If you have limited resources, then the short term comes before the long term.
And then how do you figure out that with you got financing and there's no end to the amount of money that you could use for a company.
Yeah.
How do you figure out what to spend now versus where to be frugal?
You spend on the things that increase your North Star metric the most, right? For us, if that's GMV, then, what every single, line or spend cost has to be, okay, how's this increasing our GMV?
And what are the things that you're doing every day? Is it reaching out to the Nikes of the world or the
we're trying to partner with marketing agencies, digital marketing agencies who represent a bunch of different brands. We're trying to reach out to brands themselves. We're trying to reach out to growth marketers. We're trying to reach out to people within the ecosystem that have touch points for brands.
And you're a hustler, so what's the way? What everybody would think of doing is just like go to their website, find the email. Is that just what you're doing? You're just literally doing that, or do you try to find people that know people that? What's your approach?
A warm intro is always best. There's a reason why I've worked very closely with D. There's a reason why I was in his office every day, because D happens to know everyone.
Yeah.
And so that's
D. Murthy, by the way.
Yeah.
Of the 5-4 group.
Yeah.
Who's been a huge. And by the way, just as
Go ahead.
I've done before, but I will do it again. D. Murthy. About in 2018, March, April, I've told him this over and over again. He's a humble guy. He doesn't like to even totally acknowledge it. But D has helped change my entire life without even trying.
Oh, wow.
So back in March, April 2018, I don't know if I think he already started group chat at that point. And he had a meetup with a bunch of entrepreneurs. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. Because I was in a monotonous, everyday grind of being a lawyer. And I went and I met like a few entrepreneurs, my friend Rhea and Garrett and Gyro, and ever since that time, I've changed my entire trajectory of work and life. It's just, he's been an incredible mentor from afar. It's been, I've known him for a long time, but he deserves a lot of credit for just always keeping the door open. And what has that been like for you, for like running into a guy like D and just getting him on your team?
It's a game changer. I mean, I like to say there's a very few people who've had the effect or positive effect on my life, and D's one of them.
Yeah.
Like, always never asked me for anything, never like asked for anything in return. Always was willing to, as long as I was putting in the work, was always willing to like, lend out a helping hand.
Yeah.
Maybe an intro, maybe advice, so D is just...
How do you think he balances it all?
That's a great question. I think if he knew...
Because I only ask you because you literally work at his office and you watch him.
Yeah, I think if he knew, he would package it up and sell it to all of us.
He'd love to do that.
Yeah. No, but that's a great question. I just think D overall, I just think he's just... was going a million miles an hour.
Yeah.
And so, like, he's just, like, able to balance everything. I think he's great at balancing things.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Yeah.
All right, so what is the goal? What are you trying to achieve with Group Shop?
With Group Shop, I think what we're trying to achieve is really change the status quo. If we're able to, like, shift advertising dollars, like, brand spend, I'm sure everyone here listening knows that brands spend billions of dollars a year on advertising, trying to reach you and I.
And lawyers do it. I do it.
Exactly. If we can shift a good portion of that away from going to like Facebook, Google, and these big platforms and going directly back into people's pockets, then I think we would have made a dent in the world.
What's your personal goal?
My personal goal is to, at the end of all of this, still have my integrity intact and be a little bit more wealthier than I am today.
Sounds good. All right, we're going to go to legal tip of the month.
This is the legal tip of the month, sponsored by the Sluggers at Benowitz Law Corporation. Many of you, like me, probably have all sorts of health issues that aren't visible to the naked eye. My one piece of advice to you, if they interfere with your daily life, make sure your employer knows about them and communicate that fact in writing. Your employer has to reasonably accommodate any disabilities you have, which could include stomach issues, sleep issues, mental health issues, any number of things that aren't apparent to the naked eye that could negatively impact your work and put your job in jeopardy. And so if you're experiencing any sort of physical or mental health issue and you need help, don't be afraid to tell your employer about it. It's better that they have to engage in a good faith process to accommodate you than you get fired because you didn't do anything about it.
What are the misperceptions that you have about negotiating your own severance agreement? First of all, you shouldn't be doing it, most likely. Most likely you should contact an attorney like myself to negotiate it. But here's some of the pitfalls of what you think you're doing when you're negotiating your own severance agreement. So you're going to appeal to the humanity of your former employer, your employer. You're going to say, like, I really need it because I've been a long-term employee. Unfortunately, they don't care. It's just a business transaction. So I haven't seen that work too often. Threatening a lawsuit. You're going to say, hey, if you don't pay me more money, I'm going to file a lawsuit. The problem with that is people with really good claims or really good leverage oftentimes have an attorney. So most of your employers are not going to really look favorable upon that and be scared of it. And it is actually a good threat. The threat of a lawsuit is actually something that can increase your severance. Just coming from you as a non-lawyer, it's not likely to go anywhere. The last point is speaking to HR. So when you're talking to a HR representative as an employee without an attorney, these are people that oftentimes aren't the decision makers and the people that are going to be able to increase your severance pay. So what happens when an attorney gets involved is they have a bigger principal of the company or an attorney get involved, and they really have the power of the purse to increase your pay. So call us at 1-833-LAWFLIP. Maddie, okay, first of all, everyone, thank you so much for spending time with Maddie and me today. Hope you learned a lot. I'm sure you did. Maddie, give the people a little bit of parting words and where they could find you.
All right. You can find me on Twitter, Maddie Sukoru. That's MADDY SUKORU. You can find Group Shop at groupshop.co. That's .co. And parting words, good one. I would say, be self-aware. Find the things you love. Find the things that make you happy. Find the things you love to do and do more of it. Be around people that, you enjoy being around. And I think if each of us do that, then the world's a much better place.
Love it. Okay, we will see you next month, Law Flip.
Law flip, objection, Your Honor. Turn the game upside down. Law flip, objection, Your Honor. Turn the game upside down.
Connect with us on Instagram. We're at LawFlip. LawFlip is produced by Blue Crescent Media. You can learn more about BCM at bluecrescentmedia.com. Our intro music is provided by Penn Practice, and our Law Flip identity was created by Garrett Whiston and Travis Nagel. And lastly, this podcast is made available by Smith & Benowitz for educational and entertainment purposes only. By listening to this podcast, you understand that no attorney-client relationship is being formed between you and Smith & Benowitz or any of its attorneys. This podcast should not be used as a substitute for competent legal advice from a licensed professional attorney in your state. To the extent this podcast may be considered an advertisement, Benjamin Smith is the attorney responsible for this advertisement. Thank you.
Upside down.